Here is your 3,000-word script ready to copy and paste. Most people who are struggling with money, stagnation, and the feeling that their efforts are not yielding what they should, these people look for the problem in the market, in the economy, in their boss, in bad luck. Rarely does someone stop and look at the place where they spend most of their time, the place where they sleep, eat, rest, think, dream, their home. And Kabbalah says that this is exactly where you should have looked first. Today we are going to talk about something that directly touches your daily life. It's not abstract teaching. It's not theology that looks good on paper but disappears when you close the video. It's a map, a diagnosis, of 9 signs that Kabbalists identified as indicators that the physical space where you live is creating resistance to the flow of abundance. And along with each sign, I will give you what to do about it. Because Kabbalah has never been a tradition of diagnosis without a cure. She always brought the problem and the correction together. The tikkun, the correction, is always the destination. The diagnosis is just the starting point. Tell me in the comments before continuing, when you enter your home after a long day, what do you feel? Lightness or heaviness? Energy or immediate fatigue? Write it down. Because that visceral, intuitive response you give before thinking, it is already valuable spiritual information. And throughout this video, you will understand what it is telling you. If you are not yet part of this community, subscribe now and activate the bell. Because this type of teaching, practical, applicable, rooted in millennia of Jewish wisdom, is the kind that changes real things in real life. Before diving into the 9 signs, I need to give you the spiritual context that makes them understandable. Because without this context, they seem like superstition. With it, they are spiritual physics. In the Kabbalistic view, physical space is not neutral. It never was. Every environment absorbs the energies of actions, words, and emotional states of the people who inhabit it. The Kabbalists referred to this capacity for absorption as reshimot, impressions. The space holds impressions. Like a fabric that absorbs the aroma of what has been cooked in it, the space absorbs the spiritual aroma of those who inhabit it and of what happens within it. And these impressions, accumulated over time, create what the mystics called avir habayit, the air of the house, the spiritual atmosphere of the home. This atmosphere can be of shepa, of abundance and flow, or it can be of klipa, of shell, of blockage, of resistance to the flow of light. And the good news, the news that Kabbalah always brings along with the diagnosis, is that impressions can be transformed. The avir habayit can be changed. Tikkun is always possible, always. First sign, the dark or blocked entrance. In Kabbalistic tradition, the entrance of the house is the saf habayit, the sacred threshold. It is the point of transition between the external world and the internal space. And when this point is dark, blocked, cluttered, or neglected, it sends a very clear spiritual signal. Abundance is not welcome here. You may continue on your way. This is not a metaphor. It is a description of how energy works at the level of Malchut, the kingdom, the plan of physical manifestation. Divine light follows paths, and a blocked path is not traversed. The tikkun for this signal: illuminate the entrance. Remove what is accumulated. Place something alive, a plant, flowers, and every time you pass by, make the conscious gesture of acknowledging that you are crossing a sacred portal. Second signal, stagnant or problematic water. Water in Kabbalah is mayim, and carries deep spiritual symbolism. It represents flow, adaptability, life in motion. Dripping faucets, problematic plumbing, water that doesn't drain well, stagnant water in vases that no one changes. All of these are physical signs of a blockage in the flow of the house. Kabbalists taught that mayim in motion is a symbol of chesed, of kindness and abundance that flows. Mayim that is stagnant is a symbol of din, of contraction and blockage. The tikkun for this sign: resolve what is problematic with water in your house. Do not postpone. Change the stagnant water regularly, and in doing so, intentionally declare, the flow of this house is restored. Third sign, broken objects that remain in the space. A chair with a broken leg, a stopped clock, a cracked mirror, a burnt-out light bulb that no one has replaced, an appliance that no longer works but continues to take up space. In Kabbalistic vision, each object in its space is in relation to you. Broken objects that remain uncorrected send a continuous message to your nervous system and spiritual consciousness. Here things break and stay that way. Here what doesn't work is tolerated. Here there is no active correction energy. This is the direct opposite of the principle of tikkun, of correction as an active force in life. And a space without active tikkun is a space that resists transformation. The tikkun for this sign: make a list of everything that is broken in your house, not to collapse in front of the size of the list, but to gain clarity, and start correcting, one item at a time, with intention. Each correction is a spiritual act of declaring, here things are restored, here tikkun is real. Fourth sign: images of sadness, decline, or loneliness on the walls. Kabbalists taught that the eyes are the chalonot haneshama, the windows of the soul. And what the eyes see repeatedly feeds the consciousness in a way that we rarely perceive consciously, but the cumulative effect is real. Images of dead trees, solitary figures, desolate landscapes, faces in suffering. These images feed a specific frequency of reshimot in the space. They are not necessarily bad in specific contexts, but when they dominate the environment where you live and rest, they create an avir habayit of melancholy and contraction. The tikkun for this signal: look at the walls of your house with new eyes. What do the images communicate? What do they celebrate? Gradually replace what does not celebrate life, connection, joy, hope. It doesn't have to be all at once. A picture changed with intention already begins to change the frequency of the space. Fifth signal: objects of relationships ended with pain still present in a central way. Gifts from ex-spouses with whom the breakup was painful. Photographs of relationships that ended in betrayal. Objects that carry the memory of unresolved conflicts. Kabbalah teaches that these objects are not neutral. They carry reshimot of intense emotional experiences. And when they occupy central places in your living space, they continue to emit that frequency. This does not mean you should erase all history. It means you should be intentional about what occupies the central spaces, the places where your gaze naturally lands, where you rest, where you eat. The tikkun for this sign: it is not necessarily about throwing things away. It is about relocating with awareness. What needs to go, let it go. What can remain in a private and less central space, let it stay. And the central space that opens, fill it with something that celebrates who you are becoming, not just who you were. Sixth sign: the bedroom as an office, storage room, or battlefield. The bedroom is the space of menucha, of rest, of restoration, of sacred vulnerability. It is where the soul, during sleep, makes the journey of renewal that the Kabbalists described with impressive depth. And when this space is invaded by work, by conflict, by disorder, by technology that doesn't stop, it loses the ability to fulfill its spiritual function. A person who does not truly rest is a person whose kli, whose vessel, does not renew itself. And a vessel that does not renew itself cannot receive what the next day wants to bring. The tikkun for this sign: define the room as a sacred territory of rest. Remove or minimize work from there. Reduce the presence of screens. Invest in the quality of what your senses encounter in that space: aroma, temperature, texture, silence. And before sleeping, intentionally declare that you surrender that space to rest and renewal. Seventh sign: the dining table without the function of a meal. In Jewish tradition, the dining table is a mizbeach, an altar. The act of eating together, with presence and intention, is a sacred act. The table is where the family gathers, where conversation nourishes as much as food, where blessings are pronounced and received. When the dining table became a permanent office, a mail depot, a battleground for arguments, or simply the place where everyone eats alone looking at a screen, it lost its sacred function. And with it, the home lost one of its centers of kedusha, of active holiness. The tikkun for this sign: at least once a week, gather those who live with you around the table for a meal with real presence, no screens, with a blessing, even a simple one, with conversation, even if brief. Restoring the altar does not require perfection. It requires intention and consistency. Eighth sign: books, studies, and knowledge absent from the space. The Kabbalists had a relationship with knowledge that went far beyond the intellectual. Wisdom books in a space are not just decoration. They are what tradition called otsar, treasure. The presence of knowledge in the physical space creates an atmosphere of seeking, of growth, of openness to what is still unknown. A house without books, without any physical representation of the desire to learn and grow, tends to create an atmosphere of stagnation, not because books have their own magic, but because what we place in the space declares what we value, and what we value, we cultivate, and what we cultivate grows. The tikkun for this sign: place at least one wisdom book in a visible spot in your home. It doesn't need to be a library, it needs to be a physical symbol that someone who seeks to grow lives here. And from time to time, open that book, even a page, even a paragraph. The sustained search is what the space breathes. Ninth sign: absent silence. Constant noise as a permanent background. The television that stays on with no one watching. The radio that plays to cover the silence. Notifications that arrive non-stop. The noise that has become so constant that the person no longer even notices it's there. Kabbalah teaches that silence, dumia, is not absence. It is the presence of a more subtle frequency that noise covers. It is the space where intuition speaks, where wisdom emerges, where the sacred finds an opening to communicate. A space without silence is a space where the most important voice, the inner voice, cannot be heard. And a person who cannot hear their own inner voice tends to make decisions by reaction, not by discernment. And decisions by reaction rarely build the life one desires. The tikkun for this sign: create windows of intentional silence in your home. They don't need to be long. 30 minutes a day where the background noise is turned off, where the house breathes, where you breathe, and where what is more subtle, and therefore more powerful, has space to manifest. These 9 signs are not a sentence. They are a diagnosis. And like any honest diagnosis, they only have value if they lead to tikkun, to correction, to the intentional action of transforming the space you inhabit into an ally of the life you want to build. You don't need to correct all 9 at once. Start with the one that resonated the most, the one you read and thought, this is my case. This is the one that needs attention first. Because Kabbalah teaches that a single act of tikkun done with genuine awareness creates a wave of transformation that goes far beyond the act itself. Like a stone thrown into water, the circle expands far beyond the point of impact. Your home is a living being. It responds to your attention, your intention, your care. Start treating it as the spiritual ally it can be, and watch what changes not only in the physical space, but in the quality of your entire life. Tell me in the comments, which of the 9 signs did you recognize in your home? Which one are you going to start correcting this week? Write it down, because your honest answer is the first act of tikkun, the first movement towards correction. And first movements matter more than most people realize. And if this video made you think of someone you love who is going through a period of stagnation, share it with that person. Because sometimes the most valuable gift you can give is a new perspective on a familiar space. A blessing for you and your home, for every room, every threshold, every corner where life happens. May your home know that you have arrived. May it recognize in you a conscious guardian. May every tikkun you make in it also be a tikkun within you. May the avir habayit of your home be one of shefa, of abundance and flow. May the light enter through the entrance. May the water flow without blockage. May there be space for silence to speak. And may the sacred, which has always been there, find in you someone who has finally stopped to recognize it. May the Eternal bless your house and guard it. May His light illuminate every corner of your home. May the Eternal lift His countenance upon you and grant you peace. May peace, the wholeness, the peace that begins within and spreads through every wall, every door, every window, rest upon your house. Amen and amen. In the next video, we will delve into a teaching that the Kabbalists kept for the more advanced students, the relationship between your name, the letters that compose it, and the spiritual map of your soul. A video that will be very personal and will make you look at your own identity in a completely new way. Activate the bell and I'll see you there. Shalom.